Good morning, everyone. My name is Robin Burns, and I'm the Director of Family Business Alliance. We represent nearly 170 family-run organizations here in West Michigan, and together we create connections, navigate governance, and elevate family leadership. From neighborhood shops that you visit, to offices, to building sites, to manufacturing, to the farms that sustain our community, we come in businesses of all shapes and sizes. But most importantly, we're family. So I'm here today with some distinguished guests to share with you some insights on family business. I'd like to welcome Ana Gonzalez, Assistant Professor at Grand Valley State University, as well as the Director of Family Business Alliance, Kelly Springer, CEO of Meadowflow Corporation, and Tom SLIKKERS, President and CEO of Tiara Yachts. Please welcome our guests. So we're going to jump right into the questions, but before we do, could you give us each a little background information on your organization or your family story? Ana, why don't you go first?
Of course. Thank you very much for inviting me here. I'm very pleased to share this panel with Tom and Kelly and Robin. As Robin mentioned, I'm the director of the Family Owned Business Institute at Grand Valley State University. What we do at FOBI is we serve family businesses through a scholarship, education, and advocacy, and in essence, we do research, we conduct research in the family business field, and the other part will be to disseminate that knowledge to the business community. So we're nerds, and our job is to translate whatever research findings we have into best practices for family businesses. That's, I guess, what we're doing here today. Thank you.
Kelly?
Good morning, I'm Kelly Springer, and I have the privilege of leading the team at Meadowflow Corporation. We are a deep draw metal stamper located in Holland, Michigan, with production facilities in China and a sales office in Germany. We have been in existence. We're getting ready to kick off our 45th year, and are very excited to be on this panel today.
Good morning. My name is Tom SLIKKERS. I'm the President and CEO of Tiara Yachts. We actually build fun, cool things that people like to spend time on the water. But we take raw materials and turn it into luxury yachts. And we have 700 employees in our facility today. I'm the tail end of the second generation of our business. We have 3 active third generation in our business and a host of great professionals that help us make a lot of people's dreams come true. So.
Great. So Ana, why don't we jump in with you right away? What has your work shown us about how family businesses power the West Michigan economy?
Well, that's the question, right? So as Bob mentioned it, the difficulty with identifying the impact of family businesses in a region or in a country is that we have very different definitions of them, right? We did a study, it was in 2017 in West Michigan, and we found that privately family-owned businesses impact 54% of the local economy here, which is in terms of jobs and GDP. More recently, we haven't done one, but I know that last year, in 2021, Joe Astrakhan, who's one of the top family business scholars, did a study, and they found very similar results. 54% of the U.S. economy is driven by family-owned businesses in a very broad sense of the definition, but they were privately owned. So that's good. So the broad is more than 10% of ownership. If we go from 10 to 50, it goes to 23%. And if we go over 50, it goes to 15%. Having said that, those were estimations. I think that those are always underestimated.
Yeah. And speaking of that, Kelly and Tom, I'd like to ask you a little bit more to elaborate on what you are facing in the marketplace? And is it becoming more difficult to run a family-owned business? And given that there's increasing barriers to either entry or operate the businesses as compared to some of the large businesses that are also in that, the minority, I guess?
So I think when we think about it, we look at it from the lens of, unlike many in the room, we do not sell one of our products in West Michigan. Our products are shipped all over the world. And so we step back and think of ourselves in this global setting and leverage that family business from a marketing perspective in terms of our ability to make long-term investments. We talk about it from the standpoint of selling it from a workforce perspective to recruit the top technical talent that we need to manufacture our product. And I think the challenges that exist from a regulatory perspective really creep into size. I think there was always this concept that family-owned businesses, many of them start very small. And as you go through that growth, you have to leverage and face some of the same challenges that any other organization growing is. And so it's really key to understand where you fall into that life cycle and how that changes that dynamic by being a family business.
Right. Tom, do you have more you'd like to add to that?
Well, no, I think that's a great answer. I think a lot of small, there's several of them here, small family startup businesses or people that are just starting to think about it. And it's very dreamy. You know, you want to do your own thing and you want to have your passion kind of turn into something that you've always dreamed or hoped for. But the truth of the matter is it's a dicey proposition, right? Because today, in our case, we're a small company. You know, I'd say small, 700 people, compared to many of our competitors. And many of our competitors are public. And the public guys, you know, that's the muscle, that's the machine. You know, we gotta do battle with those guys. But as Kelly was saying, you have to look for your opportunities and your leverage advantages that you can bring. It isn't just the fact that you're a family business. You have to think of yourself as, I'm an institution that's going to really be a David or a Goliath, and I'm going to choose to be the David, and I'm going to take advantage of some very, very benign things, stones in the river, and I'm going to go tackle Goliath. That's the advantage that you possess. It's not because, you know, you have 10 people in the building that all share the same last name. That's truthfully, it's cool, but that's not where your advantage lies. Your advantage lies in how do you take something that is, you know, overlooked by most everybody else and turning that into a competitive edge in the marketplace.
If I could ask you guys to elaborate on that, how do you feel, you know, you both compete globally, right? But you're based right here in our little Grand Rapids or West Michigan community. What advantages do you see that provides for you, or it helps you compete in that global marketplace?
Yeah, I think events like today, resources through the Grand Rapids Chamber, the ability that I have to pick up the phone and call another leader and ask, how are you addressing this? And that West Michigan ability to be collaborative on finding solutions that face businesses gives us an advantage to stay here. We also have a supply base that as other family-owned businesses that are based here in West Michigan. So we recognize that strength and what the West Michigan economy contributes to why we should stay here from a global perspective.
Yeah, there's been a lot of discussion today about resilience, and I think one of the elements of resiliency that helps any family business is agility, flexibility, and being able to recognize an opportunity and being able to actually go, you know what, I'm going to pivot and I'm going to go do this. You know, we had many companies during COVID that, you know, took either a left or a right turn to do things just to try to survive, but in the real context of business, with products that you compete with on a global stage, you really want to leverage those assets as best as you can and take advantage of that creative mobility, that agility to strike out and do something that is quite quick compared to most of the competition. So when I talk about those, you know, Goliaths, those guys, they get formed on their strategy and their plans and things like that, and that's really becomes their weakness. Because as the markets are so dynamic that we've experienced during this COVID and during other periods prior to this, that accelerated change, I might think I know what we're going to do 2 or 3, 4 years from now, and it looks good on paper, and my board's happy, and we're all happy. But the truth of the matter is, life changes, things change. So how fast can you adapt? How quick can you respond? How quickly can you react to some of those shifts in the marketplace? And again, that's the opportunity of what we see as our advantage as a family business.
Anna, if I can turn back to you, speaking of creativity and flexibility, what has some of your research shown us, or can you share with us what your research says about family business leaders? What are our strengths, but what should we also be paying attention to?
Yeah, we did. Thank you for that question. We did a study last year in which we deep dive into leadership styles of family businesses here in West Michigan, and we studied 3. The first one was authoritarian, which is this style or behaviors that are pretty much dominant. We studied charismatic behavior, which are these leaders that are perceived by their followers as exceptional and extraordinary, and they can pretty much convince them to do anything. And the last one, which is pretty much the ideal one, is transformational leadership, which is these leaders that really take their time understanding their followers and seeing what really motivates them to get to the goal that they want them to achieve. The good news is that pretty much everyone that was in that survey is a transformational leader or exerts behaviors related to transformational leadership, which is great. Kudos to all those family business leaders. The one thing that didn't seem like ideal, but I guess it makes sense in family businesses, is that one of the behaviors in the authoritarian style, which studies how strict a company is, how hierarchical, and how paternalistic leaders could be. Family businesses here showed very paternalistic, meaning that they tend to tell people what to do a lot. So that would be kind of a warning sign not to do that anymore, I guess, especially with new generations that really dislike that.
I challenge you all to go home today and try not to tell somebody what to do, right?
Exactly.
Kelly, speaking about leaders, what should family business leaders be considering in their engagement of female leaders, and especially in a manufacturing field, right? We have a lot of family businesses in manufacturing. West Michigan is a manufacturing hub. What should they be thinking about in terms of how to engage female leaders or other emerging leaders?
Yeah, so certainly West Michigan has this prideful fact of being this manufacturing hub. And I think sometimes the stereotype that comes with manufacturing, whether it's dirty, not technical, all the things that we've all heard that fall into that bias. But we also are facing the same workforce challenges. We had workforce challenges with 40 or 50 open positions in 2019 before the pandemic. So as we look to fill those, I think it's really stepping back and assessing the competencies that are needed for a role and aligning those competencies with those who have those skill sets. Now, they may have gotten those skill sets in a different way. That skill could come from a different background that's outside of manufacturing. But I think as we look at workforce, and certainly the opportunity that we want to create for career pathing for all of our team members, early in career, female, male, as we look at that, it's really assessing those competencies. I think as leaders, we've all stepped out of our comfort zone at some point due to circumstances that we've been faced with. And I think it's hard to look at someone early in career and know for certain whether they have that leadership potential. And we've chosen to take some risks. And we've made sure that we have support systems in place to support not only female up-and-coming leaders, but those early in career, to give them that opportunity to grow, feel supported, but also remind them of the strength of competencies that they're bringing to the table when they sit in a room, that they're entitled to be there. And here are the reasons why. And we also have great technical programs that allow you to gain those technical skills. We have several apprenticeship programs. And so it's encouraging folks to be able to see how their current skills and what we're willing to invest in them will lead them towards from a career pathing perspective. It's not simple, and it requires us to be very intentional. But I think the dividends for that intentionality have certainly paid off for us.
Right. And Tom, speaking of career path, right? What advice would you give family-run organizations about preparing successions and career paths for their next generations?
Fasten your seatbelt. Family succession is always a tricky thing. So I would say West Michigan is probably got a lot of examples where it's not been done great. There's more examples where it's starting to be done better. And it's because we have a lot of good entrepreneurial founders that started these cool businesses. They're businesses that are really businesses that we look up to today. And they were founded by people that had strong passion, a strong idea of what they wanted to do. They weren't going to take no for an answer. They were going to get it done. And they built these amazing companies, building amazing products. Passing that on to the next generation or subsequent generations, that becomes a little bit more challenging. And those are areas that, we rely on resources like Family Business Alliance and things like that to begin to help understanding what that looks like and beginning to understand what does succession look like. It doesn't have to look the same at every business. Some families, they're adamant about the fact that, they have to wear the same last name on the jersey in order to participate in succession. There are some companies that have been great at being able to migrate to those next successions, and it's not a family member. And so participation by the family is still an okay thing, but leadership expectations sometimes don't perfectly mesh and align. And I think that's probably the most important, piece of advice that I could give to everybody here today. Whether you're a family business or whether you're just a business, at the end of the day, as Kelly was saying, you want to pick competency. Competency is the one thing that you'll depend on as a leader. At the end of the day, it's your experience and what you learned and how you deliver that experience to all the people that are trusting you to migrate this path forward. And competency is a big thing. It's completely underestimated today. We see lots of people that are trying to fill and check boxes, to satisfy some agenda. And in truth, your employees, everybody that looks to you for leadership today, they're trusting you to take them to a spot, to take the company to a place, to a vision, to a dream. And the best way to do that is not by just satisfying agendas, but by legitimately engaging and getting down to earth and actually engaging people in your business that want to be a part of that future with you, and not getting hung up in whether they're family or not. It's okay to have a safe place for family that wants to be there, but prescribing that family and leadership have to be one and the same, I would tell you that's a dicey proposition in some cases, or a lot of cases. So for me, succession planning is important, but making sure the competency piece is there. So
Let's build off that for a minute. Kelly, if I can ask you, as a non-family leader of a family-run business, for families that are considering moving in that direction, what 2 or 3 considerations should they really give a careful glance at, or more than a glance at?
So as a non-family member in a family business, I think a couple of key things. One is very clear direction about the role that the family wants to play in decisions. In our case, we have it clearly defined from the two shareholders as to what my expectation is in my role and how I use the vision and values of our company to guide those day-to-day decisions. But I have virtually all responsibility for execution on what those goals are. I think it doesn't have to be 100%. There are organizations where the family fills a very key role and they want that added involvement. Right. And it could be a competitive advantage to continue to have that family involvement. And so the ground rules are every single year reassessing what those goals and values are from a family perspective. What is the outcome that the family is looking to achieve from a company that they own? And then aligning the strategic operations of the organization to meet those. Also recognizing that as a non-family CEO, you have to deliver tough messages many times to the family about what you're experiencing in the business. And that could involve communicating on things that are very sensitive matters. And so I have a phrase that says, candor is kindness. And I'm going to be very transparent if there's a family member that's not performing well in a role that we have placed them in. We are going to have a candid conversation about what that is, what we can do to support that family member. But we can't just let an aspect of the business fall into disarray because there's been a mismatch of that. So on one hand, that clear direction leads me down a very clear path and allows me to set that strategic direction with the executive team. But on the other hand, I also at times am placed in a circumstance where I play a little bit of a referee, or let's talk and have a candid conversation about something that is a family dynamic that may not be working as successfully as we would like it to. And that presents challenges and just requires that trust in that relationship.
Anna, do you have anything to add about from your research or perspective on succession and best practices, or what families should pay attention to?
Yeah, first of all, I loved your answers. Yeah, so listen to them. Yes, so succession is the topic in family business, pretty much you all know it. What's interesting is that in the last 30 years, we've done thousands of research in succession, and we found that pretty much between 90 and 100% of family businesses know that succession planning is important, but when it comes to answering, do you have a succession plan? It's always the same answer. Between 20 and 30% say yes. So most of them don't. I think that when it comes to best practices, what we have seen is that a process that is centered more in really understanding that the individual has the competencies, like really understanding that the one that is going to be the future leader, or the candidates that could potentially be the leaders, is the key. So more people-centric instead of process-centric, like, again, the checklist that you mentioned, not that, the people. And the other one, which sometimes is tricky with family businesses, which connects to your answer, is that you have to be objective instead of subjective, right? You have to be very clear in terms of what you are looking for, so that people-centric and objective is what you need instead of, subjective. That's the best practice.
Robin, if I could, just a second, I want to jump in with an example that kind of helps me understand this better. So if you're a family business, kind of join me here just for a second. Shut your eyes, kind of think of yourself at a ball stadium, okay? And you're the manager of a ball team, okay? Baseball, on the field, right? Understand all the key positions on the field. And it's a family ball team, partially. And you got family that owns the ball team. But the fans, who are your employees, are the ones that sit out in the boxes, right? And your fans are the ones that want you to do what? Win, right? You're there to win games. But, then you sometimes have this decision of, well, my favorite shortstop, the key guy on our team, he's going away. And I got to replace him. So remember, what's the mission? Win games, right? But a lot of times in family business, the first thought is, well, I got Johnny coming up, and Johnny's coming out of school, and Johnny be a great shortstop. Well, I don't know if Johnny's a good shortstop or not. We haven't even put him on the field yet. But he wears the same last name on the jersey, so he must be good at it because his dad was good at it. I mean, you kind of get where I'm going with this. That's exactly what we do to our fan base, which is our employees. So I try to look at, I think every day, I mean, we have to provide house payments and car payments for 675 people every day. And I try to think in terms of what is this going to do to them? What's the decision? What's my responsibility? How do I impact them? Yeah, it does impact the family. All the decisions do, but it also impacts them. And if I erode my trust in them, I erode my trust in the entire organization. So if you think about, succession planning in your decision making and how you're thinking forward, remember at the end of the day, all the people that are out in the stands, all the people that are out in your factories, your plants, your offices, wherever they may sit or reside, they want us to win. That's what we're here for. It's the W. And yeah, we're going to have a few bumps along the way, but man, we got to win more than we lose. And fielding the best team is the best insurance for success. So I would just tell you to keep that little analogy in your mind. And when you're thinking of succession planning in your organizations, remember the baseball field.
Great analogy. Thanks, Tom. In order to create a winning team and a family business that succeeds, you also need to be innovators. If I can ask you, our Yachts has gone through a lot of innovation. Can you share with us how you've engaged your next gen to make sure that innovation and entrepreneurial spirit stays alive?
Being brave, number one, but being willing to change. So my dad started building wooden boats. If I told you that we were still building wooden boats, most of you guys would go, you'd look at us quite odd. So we've advanced, we continue to advance, but what we do in that advancement and how we adapt the designs and what we do, that's where we exercise that innovation muscle. And so in 2017, 100% of our revenue was inboard propulsion. So some of you might not be boaters, some of you are, but it's just the type of propulsion that you design your boats around. Today, 80% of our business comes from outboard powered product. So I had to adapt a legacy brand. My father started the business in 1955. So we had to deliver a lot of same DNA, same stuff, present it in and package it in a slightly different format, but make it desirable for today. And, I'm super proud of the results. It's not just me, it's, the collective effort, but the bravery to go, hey, we're going to go and take a pretty severe turn here and we're going to chart a path in a different direction. You got to be willing to step out and be different.
And if we can wrap this up today with each of you maybe sharing what are you hopeful about, either for family business in West Michigan or business in general.
I would say, sitting here today, I'm hopeful when I hear stories like Ruben's earlier and other startup entrepreneurial businesses. That's how long-standing family businesses in this community all started. They started very entrepreneurial. Metalflow started in a garage. Today, we have over 200,000 square feet of manufacturing space. So when you think about that, many of you think, I'm an entrepreneur. You have no idea if your family's going to be involved in your business in the future. So I encourage you to think about that as you develop and build your business model and dream big. The entrepreneurial spirit that started so many of these family businesses started with this great, unique idea. And I think that builds a lot of excitement, not only for West Michigan, but for what the future looks like.
Anna?
Sure. So I'm an advocate of family businesses, and when it comes to the West Michigan family business community, I'm a raving fan, really. I'm hopeful because I hear different versions or in different ways, but the same things over and over. It's not all about the money. The golden rule, right? I hear stories like, I'm gonna leave this family business better than the way I received it. So when I hear those stories, I know that, it's not about entitlement, it's not about power, it's not about only money, but it's about keep creating value generation after generation. And I see it here, I see that entrepreneurial mindset, generation after generation. It's not like I've been here, it's that long, but it's that I talk to different generations and I see it there. So I am hopeful and trustful that, you'll keep thriving and driving this economy.
Tom, do you have anything
Yeah.
else to add?
No, the last thing I would say is I'm hopeful about the spirit of collaboration that exists in West Michigan. We're all here, and many of us grew up here, or we're here now. But West Michigan is, really a bedrock of collaboration and great ideas and a lot of can-do spirit. And it's a great place to work. It's a great place to live. I'm hopeful about more of that, truthfully. So, and if you want to buy a boat, come see us.
I think everybody wants to buy a boat, Tom. How about a round of applause for our panelists? Now I'm going to turn things back over to Bob to introduce our next speaker. Thank you, everyone.